Okay, I'm going to just go over potential FRQ. Now, there's two types. There's those T-charts. So you should have the T-chart FRQs in your notes, and you can go over them. That's with the assets and liability balance sheets. And then there's this FRQ that I'll go over today to try to get you familiar with what they could do. So they could ask you here, draw correctly labeled graph of aggregate demand and aggregate supply and show each of the following: LRAS, YE, and Y. Okay, so if I scroll down here, and just excuse me because I finished this, you would have needed the LRAS, SRAS, and AD. All originally intersected at point A here, and that would have gotten 2 points. All right, so you're going to have to be familiar with this graph. Now, they didn't ask on this one, but they could ask you something like graph it here and then graph it on the Phillips curve. All right, so just be wary of that. They could ask you both ways. All right. So that would have been the original, just starting off at the equilibrium. And then let's see where they take us next. All right. So next is assume the government increases spending on national defense without raising taxes. Right? So on your graph in part A, show how government action affects aggregate demand and how will government action affect unemployment rate in the short run. So I'm going to scroll down again. And here, all right, so we went from A, and since government spending, aggregate demand shifted right, and we got to point B over here. If I take that line down, okay, we know that price levels went up, output went up. Real GDP equals, again, income and also employment. So we know that employment increased, so therefore unemployment decreased, right? So here is the shift, how they went. Now, if they gave us the Phillips curve, we would have slid left on the Phillips curve, right? Because you slide opposite aggregate demand. So we would have slid left on the Phillips curve, all right? So just keep that in mind in case, like in this one, they didn't ask, but they can ask you about the Phillips curve. All right. Now, part C, assume the economy adjusts to a new long-run equilibrium after an increase in government spending. So I'm just going to scroll back down here. Now I'm at point B. If I adjust to a new I'm making more output. I need more workers. The demand for workers increases. That means wages go up. SRAS shifts left. And now I'm at point C. Now, if it was at the Phillips curve, if SRAS shifted left here, the Phillips curve shifts opposite, so the Phillips curve would shift right. All right. So that is how they took you through this. So you're going to have to know how to use this curve. Now, let's see what's next on their agenda. Okay, on your graph, label the new long-run equilibrium here. In order to finance government spending on national defense, the government borrows funds. All right, whenever they have a government surplus, deficit, spending, I'm thinking loanable funds graph, okay? And they say use a correctly loadable funds graph. All right, there is my loanable funds graph. R, it's real interest. I go R and Q. I shift because government spending. Remembering demand is business investment and government spending. Supply is budget deficit, surplus, and savings. I shift demand to the right, okay? I now notice interest rates go up. take this up, given the change in real interest rates. Well, if interest rates go up, I know investment goes down. So I could say investment will go down. I know if investment goes down, capital stock decreases, economic growth slows. So I'd say economic growth slows due to a decrease in capital stock. And there you have the free response. Now, what else could have they done a little differently? Instead, or they could do both. So say, like, instead of giving you, they gave you the government action and the borrows, they could then say, instead of government spending, the Fed, bought bonds. And then you'd have to show the MS, demand graph. And let's see, could I like this quickly? So they could have got, instead of government spending, they could have said, like I said, the Fed buys bonds, draw a correctly labeled graph. And there you'd have to draw. And we know if the Fed buys bonds, it's buy boom. And here, we would have seen interest rates go down. But they could have done that. The Fed buys bonds, draw the correctly labeled monetary graph, and then have you shift AD to the right based off that move, instead of starting with the national defense or spending. So you got to know that graph also, because they could ask you, again, how to fix a recessionary gap. And it might be buying bonds or lowering the discount rate. Now, be careful. Listen here, because sometimes they'll ask, what open market operations can you use to fix a recessionary gap? And some people will say, lower the discount. No, you can't lower the discount rate because they're asking you about open market operations. So it's only going to buy or sell bonds. So be careful for that, because that sometimes happens. You need to know the Phillips curve, the LRAS, SRS, AD curve, the monetary curve, and the loanable funds. They can ask all four of them in one of those questions, okay? And then the T-balance. And maybe I'll make another video a little later and get us on the T-balance. Okay, thank you very much.